YouTube. This is Michael from TYT Yugioh. I have with me John and Palmer, and today we're going to be discussing Cyber Dragon, specifically Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon, and how it's really rising in popularity now that Fire King Kozmo seems to be a popular variation of the Kozmo deck.
Yeah, the Kozmo deck has ridiculous opening fields that basically negate everything monster effect wise and other effects wise, including Cyber Dragon Infinity, Dark Planet, uh, Dark Lady as well, but Dark Lady's not a machine, so that's kind of like a non-factor in this discussion. However, we're going to be discussing like the power of Cyber Dragon and the rise in popularity and how good we actually think it is.
So most of the Monarch decks in ARG Charlotte cited Cyber Dragon instead of System Down, and it was to out the big boards that the Cosmic decks were making.
Yeah, I really like Cyber Dragon in the Xyz Monarchs, obviously since it has the double utility of being a level 5 monster, so if if you draw it and your opponent doesn't open with that big board, they kind of brick, you can still use it to advance your game state by making it rank 5.
It's also a light monster, which means you can make Pleiades, which is really powerful, and it's also a free summon, which means you can use it for a tribute summon, which is also part of what makes it so good in the Monarch deck specifically.
You also get a free like 3,000 plus attack monster with Counter Attack Fortress Dragon, fusing Cyber Dragon Infinity and multiple ships.
Yeah, see that's the other thing I really like about it. Now, John, you mentioned that the Dark Lady is obviously not a machine, but that usually isn't a problem since Chimera Tech's effect to gain that attack doesn't activate. You can just then run over the lady, and you won't have too many problems. Because again, if they have that, that they open that Wombo combo, the Fire King Island Cosmo Town Dark Destroyer combo, then they have like what, an machine. You get a 4,000 attack. Is it Chimera Tech Fortress
Yeah,
Dragon?
two or three, yeah.
Yeah,
Including your own, you get 3 or 4 thousand.
exactly.
Yeah.
Which is just really strong, and like and your opponent. The thing to note about that too is that in the Fire King Cosmo deck, doing that combo makes you really low on life. So that just really big beater to then attack over that Dark Lady or whatever puts your opponent down to like 2,000 or something. It makes them really puts a lot of pressure on them and forces them to be really aggressive on the next turn.
I know this is really meta relevant, but also despots, they are really good at this Cyber Dragon thing because you not only contact fuse with the Cosmo monsters, but you also contact fuse with your own monsters to make like a 8,000 attack Cyber Dragon guy. And then if you have like limiter removal or something, I guess you just kill them. You might even kill them with the 8,000 guy, but like that's pretty nuts. But I'd also like to express how bad Cyber Dragon Core is. For a few reasons and why you shouldn't play it. There's a couple alternatives. The Pendulum deck might decide to play Cyber Dragon Dry because it's a level 4 and you can Pendulum summon and whatnot. But Cyber Dragon Core, its effect is a mandatory effect to search a Cyber Dragon
Speller Trap.
spell card. Yeah, Spell Trap. So Spell Trap card. And the issue with that is since it's mandatory, if you don't have a copy in your deck to search, you have to show your opponent the deck to make sure that so that they can make sure that you don't have a copy of it, meaning that you're giving them information about your deck, and all the while they can also negate the activation, the mandatory activation of that effect with Cyber Dragon Infinity or Dark Lady, which means that the card in that sense does not out the board unless you don't have any monsters. But if they have Dark Lady and Infinity, then they'll just negate the banishing effect of Core as well. So the card's not very good.
Yeah, the only relevant meta deck that might consider playing Core would be Burning Abyss, but you should have multiple Beatrices and or Dantes on your field, so there's no real reason to play Core other than sending it off Beatrice.
Yeah, I think Cyber Dragon Core might have more placed in some rogue strategies. Right off the top of my head, I can think of Infernoids that just might want to mill it into the graveyard and wouldn't want to have the Cyber Dragon because that doesn't really do anything for them. Other things like maybe Fluffles, random rogue strategy. If you hit it off Toy Vendor to then search a Cyber Dragon, yeah.
The problem with Cyber Dragon Core though is you also have to control no monsters. Which makes it sort of difficult to play the card. Like if you could control monsters and use it, then it would make it more usable. But it's really hard to consider using that card.
The only other justifiable deck that would play Cyber Dragon Core would be a deck that plays Brilliant Fusion, because you can Brilliant Fusion, let your Seraph Knight die, and then break their board. But not many good players are going to play into that.
Yeah, so I guess you could say you might be able to play it then in the Xyz Monarch deck, but I think we agreed that since Cyber Dragon itself is a level 5, it's just strictly better than you should be. Cyber Dragons instead of cores.
And also an important note, if you summon Toon Cyber Dragon, you cannot fuse into Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon because its name is not Cyber Dragon. That's a very important thing to say.
Oh, that's terrible.
Another thing, just to like talk about the power of the card, I think the Kozmo deck expels so many resources into creating their first board and has so little plays to like follow up on following their first board because their first board normally wins them the game. If you do break that board with a Cyber Dragon, the way that they're currently playing, ending on like a field of 5 monsters, and then you take away 2 or 3 of those monsters with a Cyber Dragon, they basically have 0 plays unless they have a Call of the Haunted set or something.
Well, I remember from some of the ARG builds at top this weekend, there was that one Tin Can Turbo build that played a lot of traps and stuff, Cosmojos and strikes. How do you think the Chimera Tech fares in against that version of Cosmo?
Well, I think that first of all, if it's a Tin Can Turbo version, they're not going to play into Cyber Dragon as much because they're going to want to resolve multiple Tin Cans on their end phase. So if you summon Cyber Dragon, you're going to be forced to attack the Tin Can, and they're probably going to have Call of the Haunted or other trap set. They can even just straight up strike the Cyber Dragon. So that's another important thing. And they're just going to tag out for a Dark Destroyer to kill it most of the time anyway.
So then, is it possible to find some combination of like Cyber Dragons and Systems Downs to side like to sort of split the difference between those two decks? Because again, the Final Victories just dropped. We don't exactly know what most people are going to be playing in terms of their Cosmo build. So I don't know. I personally would probably side a couple Cyber Dragons, maybe 1 or 2 System Downs as well, just in case I play one of those more tin can and trap heavy versions of the deck.
I think that it's pretty much defined, or like there's at least a consensus right now that the Fire King version of the deck is the better version. So as we see the format progress, I think we will see this the Tin Can Turbo deck sort of like fizzle away, and I think the importance of siding for it will kind of go away as well, because you should the deck is inherently worse in the sense that it can't create bigger boards and whatnot.
Yeah, the Tin Can Turbo deck beats more of normal summon Orion decks, and it seems as if the Fire King Cosmo deck can just shit on everything.
All right, guys. Well, this has been a discussion on Cyber Dragon and Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon and how they can be Cosmo in this format. I know this was kind of a scatterbrain discussion, but I just wanted to share it with you guys, share our thoughts. So thank you very much. And this has been Michael, John, and Palmer from TYT Yugioh signing off.